All right, everyone, welcome to the Power Playbook, the show that's going to, well, help you figure out how to get ahead, whether it's at work, in your relationships, or even just, getting your way when ordering a pizza.
Exactly.
So over the next few deep dives, we'll be breaking down Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. Now, this book, it's a little bit controversial.
Yeah.
Some might even say it's like Machiavelli wrote a self-help guide for like Akagavia, that super ambitious coworker we all have.
Yeah. The one you're always kind of watching out for. What's so fascinating about this book, though, is it doesn't sugarcoat anything. It goes straight to the reality of power dynamics. It lays out the unspoken rules, the ones that have been shaping human behavior for centuries.
Okay, so we're talking about the stuff they don't teach you in business school, right? Like, how to subtly undermine your rivals.
The best?
Make it look like you're everyone's best friend.
That's it. Greene actually uses this analogy of court life, throughout history. Think backstabbing courtiers, scheming advisors, that kind of thing, to show how these power games happen even in what seem like civilized settings.
So basically, we're all just playing a giant Game of Thrones, but hopefully with a little less bloodshed.
Right. Let's hope so. But the point is, these power dynamics are everywhere. It doesn't matter if you're trying to get a promotion, negotiate a raise, or even just convince your partner to watch your favorite show. Understanding power can give you a serious advantage.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But does that mean we all have to be like master manipulators to get ahead?
That's not quite what Greene is saying. It's not about being ruthless or manipulative, really. It's more about awareness. The 48 laws are about understanding how these games are played so you can choose whether you want to play, or at least protect yourself from those who are playing against you.
Okay, I see. So it's like...
Right, and one of the big things Greene talks about in the preface is the danger of being naive. He says that people who think they are above these power games are often the most vulnerable to them.
Oh, interesting.
Because they underestimate what's really going on.
So it's like walking into a lion's den with a giant stake strapped to your back, and then wondering why you're getting so much attention.
Yeah. That's a pretty vivid image. But you get the point. Whether you play the game or not, you can't pretend it isn't happening.
Okay, awareness is key. But let's be honest. This book has a kind of reputation, right? It's not exactly known for promoting kindness and cooperation.
True. Some of the laws can seem a bit harsh at first glance. But again, it's more about understanding the principles behind them, not necessarily using them all the time.
Right. I mean, I don't want to turn into some corporate supervillain.
Of course not. But even if you never actually use some of the more aggressive tactics, knowing about them can help you recognize when they're being used against you.
Okay, that makes sense. So this book is like a secret decoder ring for human behavior.
You could say that, yes. It gives you a way to understand the motivations behind people's actions, especially when those actions are driven by a desire for power.
Okay, I'm officially intrigued. But before we dive into all the laws, that's the overall vibe of the book. Is it all doom and gloom, like Machiavellian scheming all the time?
And not exactly. Greene does acknowledge the darker side of human nature, but he also emphasizes strategic thinking, self-awareness, and even emotional detachment.
Emotional detachment. You mean like not obsessively checking my ex's Instagram every 5 minutes?
Yeah, that's one way to put it. But in a more strategic sense, it means being able to observe the game of power without letting your emotions cloud your judgment.
Oh, I see. So being the calm, cool, and collected one in the midst of all the chaos.
Exactly. Greene uses the analogy of a chess player. To win, you can't get caught up in the heat of the moment. You have to think several moves ahead. Anticipate your opponent's strategy and make decisions based on logic, not emotion.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we actually do that? How do we become masters of emotional detachment?
Well, that's where the 48 laws come in. They give you a framework for understanding and mastering the different aspects of power. Everything from seduction and strategy to deception and even self-preservation.
Wow, this is getting juicy. It's like a crash course in how to be a power player.
Yeah.
Without, ending up on the wrong side of the law.
Exactly. Each law is like a principle, often illustrated with historical examples that show you a specific tactic for gaining or maintaining power.
Okay, so it's like a toolbox for navigating the whole world of human behavior.
You got it. But remember, not every tool is, right, for every situation. Some of these laws can be pretty dangerous if they're misused.
Yeah, of course. I guess it's like using a chainsaw can be effective.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful not to chop off a limb or a friendship.
Exactly. It's all about being smart, strategic, and knowing when to hold back.
Okay, I'm ready to unleash my inner power player. But before we jump into the first law, can you give us a sneak peek at the kind of tactics we'll be exploring?
Sure, the 48 laws cover a wide range of strategies. Things like never outshine the master, conceal your intentions, and even win through your actions, never through argument.
Ooh, those sound intense. I'm a little intimidated, but also kind of excited. It's like a mix of fear and fascination.
Haha, yeah. I think that's the perfect mindset to approach this book with. It's not for the faint of heart, but it is undeniably insightful and thought-provoking.
I'm officially hooked. So tell me, what's the first law we need to master on our quest for, well, world domination?
Haha, okay. Well, the first law is a crucial one. Never outshine the master. It's all about understanding the balance of power between superiors and subordinates.
Ooh, that's a good one. I've definitely been guilty of messing that up a few times.
We all have, but we'll dive into that. In our next deep dive, we'll explore how even the most talented people can fall prey to this power dynamic.
All right, everyone. You heard it here first. Tune in next time as we unpack the first law of power and learn how to navigate those tricky waters without getting soaked.
So, never outshine the master. Pretty interesting concept, right?
Yeah, it is. But honestly, why wouldn't I want to? You know, show off my skills, impress the higher-ups. Isn't that how you get ahead?
Well, here's the thing. Think about it from your boss's perspective. If you're always outshining them, you're kind of making them look bad, right?
Oh, yeah. I see what you mean.
And no one likes to feel incompetent, especially not someone in a position of power.
Right, right. I guess that makes sense.
So the takeaway is making your boss feel insecure is a dangerous game. They might start to see you as a threat.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's not about hiding your talents, right? It's more about being strategic in how you use them.
Exactly. Instead of trying to steal the spotlight, find
Wow.
ways to highlight your skills while also making your boss look good.
Well, that's sneaky. I like it.
It's all about framing. You want to present your brilliance as an extension of their leadership.
Okay, so like, if I have a great idea, I should present it as a way to build upon my boss's vision.
Precisely.
Not as my own, like, genius solution.
Right. You're not trying to take all the credit. You're just demonstrating your initiative and your ability to contribute.
Okay, I'm starting to see the strategy here, but what's to stop my boss from just taking all the credit for my work?
That's a valid concern, and that's why this law requires finesse. It's not about being a pushover. It's about playing the long game.
Long game. Okay.
By consistently showing your competence, your loyalty,
Mhm.
and your ability to make your boss look good. You build trust, and you earn their respect.
So it's about building a foundation for future advancement.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. But sometimes it's hard to resist that urge to, show off a little.
Of course. We all have egos. But remember, the goal isn't to stroke your own ego. It's to position yourself for success. And sometimes that means taking a step back, letting others shine, at least for a little while.
That's a tough one. Okay, so we've talked about why it's important to not outshine the master. But do you have any real-life examples of how this plays out?
Sure. Think about the story of Icarus. You know, the one who flew too close to the sun, melted his wings.
Oh, yeah. Classic Greek myth.
It's a metaphor, really, for the dangers of overreaching, trying to surpass those in authority without considering the consequences.
So it's not just about being competent. It's about being smart, about how you use your power.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a good example. Any others?
Think about a musician who joins a band but then tries to, steal the spotlight from the lead singer.
Yeah, it's never going to end well.
Right.
So the point is, find a way to shine without eclipsing the people above you.
You got it.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this law applies to, all sorts of situations, not just in the workplace. What about in relationships?
Absolutely. Think about a romantic relationship where one partner is constantly trying to one-up the other, whether it's about their career, their social status, or even just who tells the funnier joke.
Oh, yeah, I've definitely been there. It's like, oh, you got a promotion. Well, I just baked a perfect souffle.
Haha, exactly. The point is, constantly trying to outshine your partner creates an imbalance. It can lead to resentment, insecurity, and a breakdown in communication and trust.
Okay, so it's about being mindful of the power dynamics
Yeah.
in all our relationships.
Exactly. Whether it's with your boss, your partner, your friends, or even your family, understanding this principle can help you navigate those relationships with more grace, intelligence, and ultimately more success.
This is mind-blowing. It's like I'm seeing the world in a whole new light, like a giant chessboard,
Yeah.
and everyone's making their moves.
I like that. And the more you understand the rules of the game, the better you can play.
Okay, I'm ready to level up my power game. But before we move on, let's recap. Law number 1, never outshine the master.
All right. It's all about recognizing that delicate balance of power, understanding that while it's good to showcase your skills, it's also important to avoid threatening those in authority.
Right. It's not about being a brown-noser or a pushover. It's about being strategic, playing the long game, and building trust and respect over time.
Exactly. Sometimes the most powerful move is to take a step back and let someone else shine.
Okay, I'm taking notes. This is good stuff. So what's the next law? It's going to blow our minds.
Well, law number 2 is a juicy one. It's all about trust, or rather, the lack of it, it's called. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies.
Whoa, okay, that sounds intense. I always heard, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. But this sounds like we're taking it to a whole new level.
We are. This law dives into the complexities of trust, especially in the context of power. Throughout history, friends in the royal court were often the most dangerous rivals.
Oh, wow. So I guess that whole frenemy thing was invented centuries ago.
You could say that, yeah. They knew your weaknesses, your secrets, and they had easy access to exploit them. Think about Shakespeare's tragedies. So much betrayal and intrigue coming from those closest to the throne.
Okay, so are you saying I should be?
Suspicious of all my friends.
Not necessarily suspicious, but you should be discerning. The key here is to maintain a healthy dose of skepticism in all your relationships.
Okay, so trust no one.
It's not about living in a constant state of paranoia. It's more about being aware of potential motives.
So like always having an escape route planned, just in case your best friend decides to steal your promotion.
Well, maybe not that extreme. But the point is to be aware that even those closest to you can have their own agendas. And those agendas might not always align with yours.
Okay, that's a little disheartening. But I guess better safe than sorry. So if we can't trust our friends, who can we trust?
That's where the second part of this law comes in. Learn how to use enemies.
Whoa, hold on. You're saying I should be making friends with my enemies? Not necessarily friends, more like allies sometimes.
Yeah.
A former enemy can be more trustworthy than a longtime friend.
Really?
Think about it. An enemy who has been, let's say, defeated and then brought into your fold has more to prove.
I guess they would be. Pretty grateful you didn't, throw them in the dungeon.
Right. They're likely to be more loyal out of gratitude and because they want to secure their new position.
Okay, that makes sense.
Plus, they have a unique perspective. They know your weaknesses, which can be valuable information.
You're willing to listen to your enemies.
Yeah.
So instead of writing people off, it's about being strategic, assessing their motivations, and how they can be leveraged.
You're blowing my mind here.
Good.
So in the game of power, relationships are fluid.
Exactly.
What seems like a weakness can actually become an advantage.
With the right strategy, absolutely.
Okay, I'm starting to see how I can apply this in my own life. Maybe I should stop ignoring that annoying coworker and find a way to, bring him over to the dark side.
There you go. Or at least get him to stop stealing my stapler.
It's all about recognizing that everyone, even your adversaries, has something to offer.
This is making me rethink my whole approach to relationships. I'm seeing the world as this giant chess game. Everyone's a pawn, or maybe a queen.
That's a great way to look at it. And remember, even a pawn can become a queen with the right moves.
Okay, I'm feeling empowered, ready to assess my frenemies and figure out how to turn them into strategic allies.
That's the spirit.
But before we move on, let's recap. Law number 2.
Okay.
Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. It's about being careful who you trust, recognizing that even your friends can have their own agendas, and being open to the possibility that even your enemies can be valuable assets.
You nailed it.
I'm starting to think this book is less about manipulation and more about being a really savvy, social strategist.
You're getting it. It's about understanding human behavior and using that knowledge to navigate the world with more confidence, intelligence, and ultimately, more success.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground. Trust, enemies, even crushing our rivals completely.
It's been a wild ride.
But I have a feeling there's a lot more to uncover in this Power Playbook. What's next?
Well, Law 16 actually brings us back to something we talked about earlier, absence. The law is called Use Absence to Increase Respect and Honor.
Okay, remind me, how does that work again?
It's about strategically making yourself scarce to increase your perceived value.
Right. Playing hard to get, but for power.
Exactly.
So, like, should I just start randomly disappearing from the office?
Not exactly. You don't want to be completely MIA. But the principle is sound. When something is easily available, people tend to take it for granted.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
But when something's rare or hard to get, it becomes more desirable.
It's like those limited edition sneakers everyone's always trying to get their hands on.
Exactly.
Even if they're basically the same as the regular ones, just with fancy logo.
It's all about that psychological principle, scarcity creates demand.
Interesting.
So by making yourself less available, you make people want you more.
Okay, so it's about creating a sense of mystery and exclusivity.
You got it.
Like a high-end fashion brand.
Precisely. Think about those historical figures who commanded respect without always being in the spotlight.
They knew when to make themselves scarce.
Exactly.
Okay, this is making me rethink my whole approach to, well, everything.
Good.
It's not about being aloof or inaccessible. It's about choosing your moments and making your presence count when you are around.
You're getting it.
This Power Playbook
Yeah.
is full of surprises. What else have you got?
Okay, Law 17. This one's a little bit unsettling, maybe. It's called Keep Others in Suspended Terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability.
Okay. Suspended terror. That sounds a bit dramatic.
Well, it's not about literally terrorizing people. It's about strategic unpredictability.
Oh, okay.
If people can always predict your next move, they lose respect for your power.
Because they think they've
At the
got you figured out. It's like when you're dating someone and they become too predictable. It gets boring.
It's the same principle. A little bit of unpredictability keeps people on their toes.
It's about creating a sense of anticipation.
Exactly.
What you going to do next?
People stay engaged, even if it's because they're a little intimidated.
But the goal isn't to create chaos or fear.
Right.
It's about being strategically unpredictable.
You got it.
Okay, this is like a whole new level of strategy. What's next?
Law 18 is, do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous.
Wait, are you telling me I shouldn't build walls to protect myself?
Not exactly. Boundaries are important. But this law is cautioning against excessive isolation.
Oh, okay.
It might seem like. Building a fortress will keep you safe, but it can also cut you off from valuable connections and information.
So like building a moat around your castle might keep the enemies out, but you also miss out on pizza delivery.
Exactly.
So it's about finding the right balance.
Right.
It's good to be careful about who you trust, but too much isolation can be dangerous.
It can make you vulnerable.
Okay, I'm starting to see how that works. So it's about staying connected, being present in the world, and cultivating allies.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm ready to ditch my fortress and start mingling.
That's the spirit. But remember, while building connections is key, it's also important to be discerning about who you let in.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
And that's actually what Law 19 is all about. Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person.
Ooh, yeah. I've definitely learned that one the hard way.
Haven't we all? This law is all about social intelligence, being observant, understanding people's motivations, and knowing that not everyone deserves your trust.
Okay, so it's like choosing your battles wisely.
You got it.
Some people more dangerous than others.
Exactly.
And it's best to avoid antagonizing them, unless absolutely necessary.
Right. It's about understanding the power dynamics and knowing who can help or harm you.
This is making me think, I need to make a list of everyone in my life.
Yeah.
And categorize them based on their power potential.
A mental map of your social landscape.
Exactly.
Okay, so to wrap up, this introductory deep dive. Let's look at Law 20. Do not commit to anyone.
Whoa, hold on. Are you saying I should just ditch all my commitments? What about loyalty, teamwork?
It's not about abandoning your responsibilities or being a jerk. It's more about maintaining your autonomy, avoiding entanglements that could limit your options.
Oh, okay, so it's about strategic commitment.
Exactly.
Making sure you're not getting dragged down by other people's agendas.
By staying neutral and avoiding unnecessary alliances. You keep your options open, and you're always in a position to make the most strategic move.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like being the Switzerland of power players. Neutral, but everyone wants to be on your good side.
I like
this Power Playbook is blowing my mind.
I'm glad to hear it. And remember, we've only just scratched the surface.
Right. There are 28 more laws to go. I can't wait to dive deeper and see how I can apply all of this to my own life.
Me too. Until next time, remember, knowledge is power, and the more you understand the rules of the game, the better you can play.
That's right. So stay tuned, everyone. We'll be back next time with a deep dive into Law number 21. Until then, keep an eye out for those power plays happening all around you. You might be surprised by what you discover.